Hello, welcome to the New Jersey Folk Festival. My name is Maria Kennedy, and I am the co-director of the festival. This video is part of our New Directions in Folk virtual stage for the 2021 festival, which focuses on social justice in folk music. We wanted to revisit the legacy of Rutgers alumnus and folk music legend Paul Robeson. In this video, we hear from musician Josh White Jr., whose father, Josh White, was a fellow musician and contemporary of Robeson's. Josh White Jr. followed in his father's footsteps, becoming a prominent figure in the folk revival. My colleague Jorge Arévalo Mateus and I sat down with Josh to talk about the impact Robeson and his father had on him, his experiences as a musician in the 60s, and how he sees that musical legacy living on today. After our interview, Josh performed several favorite songs also made famous by Robeson. I hope you enjoy. Thank you.
Well, it's nice to meet you in person, or as much in person as we can be.
And you too.
Thank you so much for being part of our festival. I just wanted to extend my sincere gratitude for you participating, both by doing the recorded videos and doing this conversation with us.
Well, I appreciate that you invited me, and whatever I can say and do and remember, you got it.
How did you become aware of Paul Robeson? Was it through your father's life and career, or more personally?
Through my old man. He was one of many people who were friends of my dad's who did music, and who happened to be Black. And a lot of those performers my father knew were mostly white doing that kind of music. So he kind of stood out in that respect. Also because he was such a big man, especially to an 8-year-old.
What do you think that Paul Robeson's legacy or contribution has been to the American story writ large as such?
Well, the fact is that he's a predecessor. He was the one that we all have generations of people who bring out things that we have to speak about and to, and they do it in different ways. Some are just speakers, some use music, and that is something that I respected and loved about Paul, that he not only spoke on it, but he could put music to it. And to speak it is wonderful, but then when you put those words to a melody, that touches people more, and that is what I'm all about. And I'm grateful for that exposure of him doing that.
What struck me with the first time I heard Paul Robeson, and I'm sure most people, is just the power of his voice. And it has such an interesting sound to it. And I was wondering, what you thought of his voice, or how it impacted you as a musician.
Well, we all have our sounds when we sing, and he had a sound that no one else really touched, and so it stood out. And it also let me know that I don't need to try and sound like anyone or try and do a song the way they would do it, but to feel it. They felt it, and they felt it that way. I've got to hear those same words and chords and see how it touches me, and it'll come out that way. Whether it comes out close to who I learned it from, I don't know, but I know when I feel comfortable after putting a song together. I always feel I know where it came from, but I can feel and hear me and how I do the song.
That's so interesting because, part of what we're trying to do with the festival is to highlight, the ways that songs move from one generation to another, and how they move from one person to another. And I think the way that you described it just really shows how each individual person puts their stamp on a song, but it still has what came with it.
Yes.
I wanted to ask you, do you have any thoughts on the way that folk musicians, or not just folk musicians, because all kinds of musicians have interpreted songs that Paul made famous. Do you have any thoughts about that?
I mean, that is a progression that naturally happens with music. You never know how or when or who, but that's a progression that music is. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Paul Robeson song that you love to sing even still?
This little light of mine I'm gonna let it shine, this little light of mine. I love that a lot. I do that a lot. And it's funny because, not funny, because a lot of people who do not know who made it famous will sing along with me. I'm gonna start singing and say, join me. And people jump in all the time.
Would you like to take a little short listen of that song by Paul?
Yes, yes.
Let me do this.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Go ahead.
I was wondering what it is about that song in particular that moves you.
Because the light is your heart and you're letting it shine. My goodness. And you have to maybe sing that to remind people that they have the same heart in them. And a song can bring out things that a spoken word just is different. With a melody to it, it can touch you more. And that's what I love.
Do you have any thoughts on your experience as a Black folk artist in the American folk space?
Not at all, because I started so young. I'm 4 years old when I started singing with Dad, and they were just my family. They were white, there was a few Blacks, but it was just the way of life. It was nothing you had to get used to. It was the way it was. It has been within you, and you have that exposure all of your life. That was just the way life is, the way life goes or should go. When I came here in '61 to play this club, there was not a place that would take a Negro person. I had to wind up paying a Black couple to use a room to sleep in, because there was no place here in Michigan at that time that would take me. June 1961, never forget it.
Curious, having lived through that in the 60s, what do you think is happening right now, and what are your perspectives on it?
Yeah, all of us, not just me, would like to think this is the last time that we're going to have to go through anything like this, because people are more aware. They can see things that are videoed or can be filmed that we didn't have back then. And to me, it helps show that we should appreciate the differences. I do music with kids, and I talk to them about, is there one kind of tree? Is there one kind of grass? No. Same thing as those who walk on two legs. Come on, appreciate it.
Yeah. And I'm just wondering how you think music, made a difference back then, and how could it make a difference now?
Music always makes a difference, because again, sometimes the spoken word is not going to do it, but you put music to those spoken words, people will hear it a little easier. You give them melody, they'll hear it a little easier. And my gosh, if you have a good chorus that is catchy, you got it going. You do, because it'll touch you enough that you'll find you're driving along, and all of a sudden there's a little light in mine. It comes out, and it makes you feel good to sing a song that touches people in a good way. It does. It makes you feel good. And how can you beat that?
I'm really glad we got the chance to talk to you, just even through Zoom, because it's really wonderful to just get a sense of you as a person and have the chance to ask you questions. So we really appreciate it.
I appreciate it as well. You all take care and get your shots if you haven't already.
I'm getting mine tomorrow.
I did mine this week.
Okay, and I did mine last week. There we go.
Yeah.
Let's
All
do
right.
it.
Well, And Buddha, I know you're in the background being our cameraman, and so you've been a real wonderful to work with. I really appreciate you being our tech crew.
Yeah, there he is. Thank you, Buddha.
3 generations of white right here.
Yeah.
Here's a song Paul used to do. Look down, look down, that lonesome road before you travel on. Look up, and seek your maker before gale blows his horn. Weary toning, Lord, such a load, traveling on down that lonesome road. Please look down that lonesome road before you travel on. And here's another song that Paul used to do. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows but Jesus. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Glory, hallelujah. I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? Coming for to carry me home, a band of angels coming after me. You know they're coming for to carry me home. If you get there before I do, coming for to carry me home, tell all my friends, oh, that I'm coming there too. You know I'm coming for to carry me home. You know I looked over Jordan. What did I see? Coming for to carry me home, a band of angels coming after me. You know they're coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Of the songs that I'm doing, this next one is one that calls to be sung by more than one. So wherever you are, whomever you're with, if the feeling moves you, join me. Here's what I mean. Here's the song. Sing with me this little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, everywhere I go. You can sing loud if you want. I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, you know I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Right here in my heart, right here in my heart, you know that I'm gonna let it shine. Right here in my heart, I'm gonna let it shine. Right here in my heart, you know that I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, everywhere I go, you know that I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, you know I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light, this little light of mine, you know I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, you know I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Say that last part again. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Sing that again. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Slow it up and take it on home. Let it shine, let it shine, let it here we go. Shine. Good work. You were good. And here's another song that Paul used to do. I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night, alive as you and me. Says I to Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, said he. I never died, said he. In Salt Lake City, Joe said as I, standing by my bed, They framed you on a murder charge, says Joe, but I ain't dead. Says Joe, but I ain't dead. The copper bosses killed you, Joe. They shot you, Joe, says I. Takes more than a gun to kill a man, says Joe. I didn't die, says Joe. I didn't die. And standing there as big as life and smiling with his eyes, says Joe, what they could never kill went on to organize. Went on to organize. From San Diego up to Maine, in every mine and mill where workers defend their rights to live, it's there you'll find Joe Hill. It's there you'll find Joe Hill. I dreamed I saw Joe Hill last night, alive as you and me. Says I to Joe, you're 10 years dead. I never died, said he. I never died, said he.